Welcome back, everybody, to the Tennessee Titans franchise here on Madden 23. We've got a pretty big episode today with a huge game against the Denver Broncos, who might be the best team in football so far. And then we've also got a prospect profile covering the offensive skill position players at running back, wide receiver, and tight end in this upcoming draft class. It's a pretty jam-packed episode, so get comfortable, get a snack, because we've got a lot of stuff to go through. Our Titans are 5-3 through the first 9 weeks of the season. We had a pretty eventful trade deadline in the last episode, sending Danico Autry to the Ravens for a couple of draft picks, and then we traded Austin Hooper to the Bills in exchange for A.J. Epineza and O.J. Howard. Along with that, there were some other big moves around the rest of the league. Marcus Davenport to Dallas, Mike Gesicki to the Bucs, and Alexander Mattison to the Chiefs. Let's talk about this prospect profile here, starting at the running back position. And obviously, we are led by Derrick Henry, who might be the best running back in football. He has had a phenomenal start to the year this season, as expected. But I think we need to get somebody behind Henry who we can groom to maybe be the replacement. Derrick Henry's 28 years old. He's coming off a big injury last year. So we don't know how much longer he's going to play at a high level. And I don't think we have a lead rusher other than Henry on our roster. We hope that Bo Melton would be a really good receiving back for us. He's been a little bit disappointing. Hassan Haskins has been okay as a short yardage guy. But I think we need somebody behind Derrick Henry. And I wouldn't be surprised if we draft a running back pretty highly this year. Maybe not with one of our first picks, but at some point. The top projected running back in this class is Ronnie DeRugi out of LSU. There's no clear top running back in the class. I think these first 5 guys can really go in any order. But for now, DeRugi is the favorite to be the top running back off the board. He's a very well-rounded player. He's a guy who can run between the tackles and is also a very effective receiving option as well. He's been pretty disappointing to start the season, but pretty much everybody on LSU has been disappointing this year, so it's not just him. But I do think he does project better out of any running back in this class to be a consistent lead rusher, and the fact that he's so well-rounded and can give you everything that you look for in a running back. Kiki Rodriguez III might be the most explosive back in this class. Also a possible first-round pick out of the University of Auburn. Rodriguez has had a great start to the year. He is entered as a possible Heisman contender through the first couple of games with the Tigers. My only real concern with him is he's gotten a lot of tread on the tires. He has been a big piece of the Auburn offense since he was a true freshman. This was a similar concern I had about Jonathan Taylor, that maybe he was a little bit too worn out going into the NFL. That has obviously not been an issue with Jonathan Taylor because he's been a superstar, so we hope that Kiki Rodriguez can get the same luck. Next on the list, we have a Darian Graham out of Oklahoma, who is currently the Heisman favorite through the first few weeks of the season. That's more so about his play in the past rather than this year. He's been a little bit slow out of the gate this season, but that's largely because of how good Oklahoma's passing game has been, so it's not entirely his fault. I think Graham has good build at 5'11", 215. He's got great burst. He's phenomenal with the ball in his hands. He always makes the first guy miss, and I'm pretty confident he'll be a good player at the next level, even though he's been a little bit quiet to start this season. Again, that's not really his fault. That's just because Oklahoma's passing offense has been so good. Next up on the list, we got Charles Wiggins out of the University of Michigan. Wiggins is a major breakout candidate this year for the Wolverines offense, and so far he's been very good to start the season. I think he's a guy who has the upside to be a high-level lead rusher in the NFL. He's very well-rounded and just doesn't really have many weaknesses to his game. He's got good size. He's got good ability. He's coming off a career year last season, and he's a guy who I think could be a really solid second-round pick as the likely 4th running back off the board at this point in time. I think of all these guys in the top 5, Igby Prince from North Carolina might honestly have the highest ceiling. Prince has shown high-level flashes through his first few seasons at UNC, and the upside is there. You see the big playability with him week in and week out, and that North Carolina offense as a whole is so fun to watch, and I think that UNC is really a sleeper team in college football right now. Prince does not have a large workload. He hasn't gotten nearly as many touches as all of these guys throughout their collegiate careers, so we haven't seen him consistently produce, but on the other hand, he's going to have a lot more tread in the tires compared to a guy like Kiki Rodriguez III, who's gotten 3 times the amount of touches in college. Prince has a lot to prove this year, but I think he can really up his stock with a great senior season for the Tar Heels. From there, I want to find some sleepers who I like down the board here late. There are some good mid-round running backs here. Ray Demerit out of Duke is certainly one of them. Demerit's gotten off to a quiet start this season with the Blue Devils, but I think he is in line for a big season this year at Duke, who is one of my sleeper teams in the ACC. Demerit is not the biggest guy, but I think he's a pretty well-rounded back and could be a really good change of pace option for a team like the Titans. I want someone who can make an impact in the passing game, and I also want somebody who's a good enough between the tackles runner, and I think Demerit can be that. He only has 7 career receptions, so we have not seen him consistently produce as a receiver, but I do think he has that ability as a pass catcher and as a route runner, so I would like to see Duke get him more involved in the pass game this year. Going down the board, another player I really like is Patrick Dauphren out of the University of Southern California. I think USC has really misutilized him because I think he's a Walmart Christian McCaffrey. And no, it's not just because he's a white running back who played at a Pac-12 school in California. I think there are some similarities to their games. He's not the biggest guy, he's not the strongest, but he's a weapon with the ball in his hands regardless of how you use him as a running back, as a receiver. He's maybe the best kick returner in college football as well. So I think he could be a really good receiving option. Again, he only has 8 career catches, but I think USC has totally misutilized him, and I think he'd be a great fit on our offense as an RB2 behind Derrick Henry and somebody who can be a consistent pass catcher. I see shades of Rosemont St. Clair in his game. If you watch my Eagles franchise last year, you'll know who that is. Chris Johnson out of Tennessee is also a pretty fun player. The last time there was a running back who played in the state of Tennessee with the number 24 named Chris Johnson, well, that player was pretty good. So hopefully this Chris Johnson can be quite solid as well. He's not quite as fast as CJ2K. He's not quite as explosive, but he's a high-quality player who I think will be a good day 3 pick at running back, and it would be a pretty fun storyline if we were to end up choosing him. The last running back we're going to be talking about is Rocket Reddick out of Minnesota. In this universe, the Golden Gophers won the national championship last season, and Rocket Reddick was a huge piece of that. Minnesota lost a lot of key seniors from last year's team, so Reddick is expected to step up and have an even bigger role. He's one of the most explosive players in college football with one of the highest speed ratings in the game. You talk about somebody who's quick, elusive, fast, and a weapon out of the backfield. I think he can be a good receiving option, and through the first couple of games, he has looked really, really good this season, and somebody who I think will end up going a lot higher than his current 7th round projection. If he keeps at this pace, I could see him being a 3rd or 4th round pick possibly. It's a very deep running back class, a lot of talented players here down the board, and then some other underclassmen as well to look out for. All of these players are draft eligible. All of them very well could declare for the draft this year, and if they don't, there'll be names to watch next season in the upcoming 2024 NFL draft. So I'm curious to see which some of these guys enter the draft this year, a lot of whom I think could be possibly high selections. Now moving on to the wide receiver position. Of course, we have Odell Beckham Jr., who has not yet played this season. I don't see Odell as a long-term piece. He's only on a 1-year deal, and we haven't seen him on the field yet, and he's probably not going to play for the next few weeks. Robert Woods and Treylon Burks are our current starters, and they're both pretty good players, and they're both under contract for 3 seasons after this one. However, I don't think either of them are true number 1 receivers. Treylon Burks is sort of your do-it-all type of guy, and I think Robert Woods is the perfect number 2. So I still think we're missing that true alpha number 1 receiver on this roster. Maybe Burks can develop into that, but I'd be a little bit surprised, especially considering he only has normal development. Kyle Phillips is also an interesting slot option down the board, but I think we could look to add another receiver this year. This is a really talented receiver class with currently 3 guys projected to go in the first round, with Kason Bruyette out of Oklahoma opening the season as the wide receiver 1. Bruyette is probably the best player on the best offense in college football, which obviously says a lot about him. He's 6'2", over 200 pounds, but despite his big frame, he's really fast and explosive. He's got good hands. He's a good route runner. He projects very well to the next level. The only question with him has been the lack of production throughout his college career, although through the first few games this season, he's gotten off to a really good start. So if he continues to play at a high level, I would be very surprised if he is not the first receiver off the board, and I very well could see him as a top 10 pick in this year's draft. However, if there are a few receivers not too far behind him who I think are very solid as well. Tyler Royal out of the University of Oregon is one of the most impressive playmakers, not just in the Pac-12, but in all of college football. He's a big guy, 6'2", 200 pounds, and he's got legit 4.3 speed. In terms of all the receivers in this class, I don't think there's anyone better than Royal in terms of ability after the catch. He is so explosive with the football in his hands. He's a phenomenal route runner as well. The only question is how consistent are his hands? If he can avoid the drop issues that have somewhat plagued his college career so far with the Ducks, then I think he could be a superstar receiver at the next level. And as of now, he is a surefire projected top 20 pick. The other projected first-round receiver here is Scotty Pickens out of Arizona. He's the fastest player in the entire draft class, and I would be too if Zippy the Kangaroo was that close behind me. Pickens has a legit shot to break the 40-yard dash record. That's how fast he is. But he is not just speed. He is the full package. You talk about route running, you talk about hands, you talk about after the catch ability. But the thing that really sets him apart from some of these other receivers is his production in college. Since his true freshman season, he's been one of the best receivers in the country. He is far and away the NCAA active leader in terms of catches, yards, and touchdowns among all receivers. The gap between him and second place in yards is over 1,300 yards. That's the same distance between second place and 88th place. Scotty Pickens has been so dominant throughout his collegiate career with Arizona, and I have a hard time thinking with his production and his speed that he won't be a first-round pick. And I think his stock is going to go up. I think he's going to be a top 20 pick. He's too good to go out of the top 20. Next up, we get to the second tier of receivers, starting with Zaire Patton out of Ole Miss. Patton is a very polished player. He's got good hands. He's got good routes. But he's not a consistent separator off the line of scrimmage, and he's also pretty slow compared to other receivers. A lot of scouts are a little bit worried that he could have a similar pro career to another former Ole Miss receiver in Laquan Treadwell. Patton also had a pretty disappointing junior season after he was great as a sophomore. So Patton's got a lot of questions to answer with his lack of speed and release off the line of scrimmage. But I think he's too polished not to be a good pro. Along with Patton in this second tier, we have Bryson Smith from the University of South Carolina. He's 5'11", 210 pounds, so he's sort of that weird size where you don't know if he's going to be a consistent outside receiver or if he'll have to mainly be a slot guy. He's produced on the outside and in the slot at South Carolina, so I'm confident that at bare minimum, he'll be a good slot receiver in the NFL, but I do think he has the ability to be a good outside guy, even though he's not the tallest. He's been pretty consistent with the Gamecocks through his 3-year career, and I think he's going to have an even better senior season. He's fast, he's got pretty good hands, pretty good route runner, just a very well-rounded player, and I have a hard time thinking that he won't be a good pro at the next level. Looking down the board, there are some other good players here. Hollis Francois, great route runner. John Vincent III, big-bodied red zone target. Terrence Carter, height-weight speed guy. But Matt Levine from Louisville is certainly a big sleeper of mine. At surface value, he doesn't look like a great pro prospect. 5'10", 175 pounds. You'd hope he'd be pretty fast out of the slot, but he's actually quite slow. He's got like 4.6 speed. So with his lack of speed and size, there are some concerns, but he is a technician. He has great hands. He knows how to get open. And I'm not really worried about him at the next level. I think he's going to be a good pro. Look at guys like Hunter Renfrow, who have been slept on through their collegiate careers and have been good NFL caliber players. And I think Matt Levine could be one of the best slot receivers in the NFL. Some other day 3 receivers I like include Devon Hall, Deegan Beckham. But I think the real guy to watch out for here in like the 5th round or so is going to be Okonomi Joolholm from Kentucky. He's very different to the player we just talked about, Matt Levine, because he wins with his size, 6'4", 223 pounds. He's a big body target, but he also comes with great athleticism. Very fast, very quick off the line of scrimmage. Got to be a little bit more consistent, but I think he's got the physical traits to be a really good pro, and I think the ceiling is absolutely worth a 4th or 5th round pick with Joolholm, who's had a pretty solid start to the season this year with the Wildcats. And then even going down the board, there are some legitimately good players projected to go in the 6th and 7th rounds. Hobson Eid from California is a big sleeper of mine. He's a very talented player. Letty Amon's one of the fastest players in the country. Jaden Menendez is 6'7". Rentrell Lemio Jr., Caden Reed, Trevor Kaft, Reuben Morton Sr. All these guys are really, really talented. And then looking at some underclassmen as well, Deaden Washington from Texas is maybe the best receiving prospect in college football right now. He's a very talented junior who gives you everything you want at the wide receiver position. He was maybe the best receiver in the country last year as a sophomore, and although he has struggled to start the season this year as a junior, I'm not really worried about him. He's 6'4", he's a great route runner, super explosive, super twitchy, good hands. He gives you all you want as a receiver prospect, but hopefully he can play a little bit better this season. Jaden Wilson-Miller from Alabama might be the next best receiving prospect in all of college football. He's not the biggest, he's not the fastest, but he just knows how to play receiver. Look at guys like Justin Jefferson and Devontae Adams. They don't have elite size. They don't have game-breaking speed, but they know how to play the position at a high level. And I think Wilson Miller is exactly like that. And I think whenever he enters the league, whether that's this year or in the future, he's going to be a first-round pick, and a very high first-round pick. Some other names to watch include Tyrese Barracon out of Texas, Vashon Kodali as well, very talented player too. And then moving to tight end, certainly a position we may look to upgrade from. O.J. Howard only has one more year on his deal, and behind him, maybe Chigakonkwo develops into something, but tight end certainly a need on this roster. And it's a really strong tight end class. Malachi James from San Diego State is a very polarizing player, but the upside with him is 100% there, and I have a hard time thinking he will be picked outside of the first round. 6'7" with game-breaking athleticism, phenomenal speed, very good route runner, and he's a really good blocker as well. He's super well-rounded. The question with him has been consistency and production. He hasn't really put it together at San Diego State. However, the first couple games this season, he's looked really, really good. So hopefully it's a sign of things to come with him. He is such an intriguing prospect, and if he gives 70% of what he's done through the first couple of games, he's going to be a first-round pick, and I think someone very high on the Titans' target list. I think he's a perfect fit for what we're looking for at tight end and would make a lot of sense with a possible mid to late first round pick if he's available, because I'm not convinced he's going to fall out of the top 15 picks. We get to the next tier of tight ends. Leighton Simpson out of West Virginia, talented player. Masio Calciano out of Missouri is a very intriguing guy, 6'5", 250 pounds. He's a really intriguing receiver. He's very dynamic after the catch. He's got pretty good athleticism. He's a solid enough blocker, and he's had very high level of production at Mizzou. This is a guy who I think is going to be a really good second-round pick, super well-rounded. And if the Titans fail to get a guy like Malachi James early, Calciano could be a really solid pick later down the board. So I think he's a name to watch out for as a possible fringe top 50 pick. Along with him, another guy I really like in this range is Muhammad McBride from Oklahoma. It seems like the Sooners offense just has a bazillion NFL prospects. They have so many stars on that team that they sort of need role players who can do a little bit of everything. And that's exactly what Muhammad McBride is. Outside of the best 5 or 6 tight ends in the NFL, most starting tight ends are more of role players. They don't put up the big numbers, but they do all the little things. That's exactly what Muhammad McBride is. So because of that, I think he's got a really high floor, and I am convinced he's going to be a really good starting caliber player for a decade. He's athletic, he's got good hands, he's a good blocker. He gives you everything you want for it and checks all the boxes at the tight end position. Maybe he's a little bit small, only 6'2", 230 pounds, but other than his lack of size, he gives you everything you want at tight end. So I have a hard time thinking he'll make it out of the second round. Looking at some possible mid-round gems at the position, there are a couple guys I like. Malone Eaton-Jenkins from Utah State is really interesting. He's 6'2", 270 pounds, but he plays like he's 220. He is super athletic, he's pretty fast, and his acceleration is second to none. The production at Utah State is very high. Amongst all receivers in college football, he is second in terms of yards, only behind Scotty Pickens. He won the John Mackey Award last year with nearly 1,600 yards. And with his odd build at 270 pounds, I think teams are going to be really intrigued by him because, again, he plays like a 270-pounder in the sense that he's a really good blocker, but as a receiver, he looks like he's 230. Emeka Uwuzie from Alabama is a very intriguing prospect as well. He has not had the consistent production as some of the other tight ends in this draft class, but I think it's because he hasn't really gotten a true opportunity at Alabama. This year as a full-time starter, I think he's got a real opportunity to break out and improve his stock. He's not a phenomenal blocker, but as a receiver, he's really enticing. He's big, he's fast, he's strong, he's got good hands, he's a solid route runner, and I think he could be an interesting flyer in, say, the 4th round. Alabama has other targets like Jaden Wilson-Miller and Khalil Hassan who kind of outshine Uwuzie. But I think in the 4th or 5th round, he could be a real gem if he can develop into his ceiling. And I think Alabama has kind of misutilized him. There are plenty of other interesting tight ends throughout the class, and there are some interesting underclassmen as well. Latrell McAllister from Clemson, I think, could be one of the top tight ends off the board this year or next year. Ezekiel Ayutundo out of Oregon, also very talented as well. Will O'Neal from USC, super high production with him. So there you go. Those are the offensive skill position players in this year's class. Really talented and fun group, a couple of whom I think we may have a good shot at drafting. Let's now move on to the current Tennessee Titans as we do have a breakout challenge for one of our defensive backs. I was expecting it to be Elijah Molden, but it's actually Caleb Farley. This is a big opportunity to move him up to superstar development if we can complete the challenge against the Broncos. Breakout challenges for corners are pretty hard, especially if they have above normal development. So I'm not overly confident that we'll be able to get it with Farley. I think the best chance with him would be 2 tackles for loss, so we may need to use him as more of a slot corner today if we want to complete the challenge. But if we want our best chance of winning the game, we're also going to need him on the outside because this Denver Broncos team has great receivers. They have a great passing game, and they have been one of the best teams in football so far this season. And I think they are hungry and due for a win. They won their first 6 games of the year. Their offense started out on fire. Then they lost against the Jets and the Jags, and then they had a bye week. So they have not won since week 6. So they have to feel due for a win today. The Broncos are, of course, led by quarterback Russell Wilson, Mr. Broncos Country. Let's ride. So far, the Broncos Country has been riding quite high with Russ, who has been really, really good this season. They've got great weapons on offense with Javonte Williams, Jerry Jeudy, and Cortland Sutton. They've got a very talented defense as well, although they'll be without pass rusher Bradley Chubb, which is a pretty big loss for them. Obviously, we are without Zach Cunningham for the next few weeks, which kind of offsets that. So it should be a fun game. The 6-2 Denver Broncos, led by first-year head coach Nathaniel Hackett, against the 5-3 Tennessee Titans, led by first-year head coach Zebediah Phoenix II. The Broncos open up with the football here at the 48-yard line. Russell Wilson drops back to throw it. He's going to go up the middle. It's hauled in by Cortland Sutton, who breaks away from Farley, and Sutton has it inside the 30-yard line. A nice gain for Sutton, the former second-round pick out of Southern Methodist University. So far, so good on this first possession here for the Broncos. They're moving it pretty well down the field as Russ goes short back in the hands of Cortland Sutton, who gains 19 more yards. Russell Wilson is 5 for 5 on this first drive, looking very, very solid for Denver as it's now 1st and goal. The Broncos very close to the end zone. Wilson scrambling, and he connects with big booty Jerry Jeudy for 6. The Broncos march down the field in their opening possession of the game, and they now lead 7-0. The Titans have it back, 2nd and 11. Handoff for Derrick Henry to the left side. Nice play by Henry, who gained 17 yards. Derrick Henry is coming off by far his worst game of the year last week against the Chiefs, where he barely got above 2 yards per carry. Hoping to do a little bit better today as Tannehill goes up the middle for Treylon Burks, who gets it to the 30. Burks is coming off by far his best performance of the season last week against Kansas City with his first career 100-yard game. Following play, Tannehill goes up the middle for the tight end, O.J. Howard, who gains 20. So far, so good for both passing attacks. Russell Wilson, 6 for 6 on his first drive. Ryan Tannehill, now 5 for 5 as he connects with the rookie Chigo Okonkwo for the score. Both offenses start the game by marching down the field for a pair of touchdowns, and we are tied at 7. Chigo Okonkwo giving everybody their lunch, but on that play, it was Okonkwo eating for 6. The Broncos now had the football back, 2nd and 1. Tim Patrick in motion as he's going to get the handoff from Wilson. Patrick breaking tackles with room, gets by Byard, and he is gone. 66 yards to the house for Tim Patrick, and this quick offensive start continues as the Broncos now lead 14-7. Defense, never heard of her. So the Titans get it back, 2nd and 5. Malik Willis in the game at quarterback, of course, getting some occasional snaps, as Willis has rushing room, one of the fastest quarterbacks in the league, and he gains 22 yards. Willis is a very intriguing passer, but he is so dangerous as a runner, and that's one of the big reasons why the Titans are so excited about him. 14-7 your score through 1. The Broncos lead. So far, both offenses look unbelievable, and both defenses look like they have forgotten how to play football. 3rd and 9 for the Titans. Tannehill looking for the sidelines, and it's broken up for Burks. The first incomplete pass of the entire game by either team. Broncos have it back, up by 7 with the football at the 23-yard line as it's a pitch to the left side for Javonte Williams, and he is smothered in the backfield by Caleb Farley and Elijah Molden. As part of Farley's breakout challenge, one of the things that can move him up is 2 tackles for loss, and now he has 1. 3rd and 6, Wilson under pressure, breaks the sack, but is still brought down. A number of Titan defenders in the area. I think they're going to give credit to Bud Dupree and Harold Landry, each getting half a sack. Jeffrey Simmons among the other Titans also in the backfield, disrupting the quarterback. So the Titans have it back. 3rd and 7, Burks is open up the middle. Good route to get open, and he will bring it to the 29-yard line. Patrick Surtain, the main assignment for Burks today, is on 1st down. Tannehill's under pressure, and he is sacked in the backfield. Malik Reed and friends bringing down the quarterback. Randy Gregory was also there for half a sack as well. 3rd and 13, short throw up the middle for Howard, and he is just shy of the 1st down marker. Wrapped up by Baron Browning, the former 3rd-round pick out of the Ohio State University. 4th and 1 at the 20. The Titans are going to go for it, and they just barely get it as Henry stiff arms away from Josie Jewell for the 1st down. Following play, Tannehill backs up in the pocket. He's going to go short for Treylon Burks, and this game is tied. Burks with his 4th touchdown of the season. He is really playing well these past couple of weeks, developing into a great 1st-round pick. And now it is 14 apiece as the Broncos get it back with 3 and change left to go in the 1st half. Russell Wilson looks to throw it, and he is picked off. Roger McCreary with the interception, his 2nd of the year. McCreary has only gotten limited snaps, but when he's been on the field, he has been honestly really impressive. Tennessee has great field position off the turnover. Here on 3rd down, Tannehill is sacked, and he loses the football. Randy Gregory doing handstands as it's picked up by Jamie Collins. He's going to take this one the distance for a scoop and score, and the Broncos are back on top, 21-14. Randy Gregory with the strip sack, Jamie Collins with the fumble return touchdown. There would be no review because that ball is clear as day out, and it's now 21-14. The Titans have it here late in the 1st half, looking to tie this one up once again as Tannehill is on the run, and he will fumble it again, and it's picked up by Gregory. Back-to-back drives with fumbles for Ryan Tannehill. He has now turned it over twice here in the 1st half, and the Broncos get it back. On the other end of the fumble, it was DJ Jones for Broncos with the force, and they've got it back, looking to make it a 2-score game late in the half as Wilson is smothered in the pocket by David Long. Long has gotten a tackle for loss in each of Tennessee's first 9 games of the season. He is certainly playing like he wants a contract extension. Wilson misfires on 3rd and 14, looking for Tim Patrick. That'll force a punt, and the Titans get it back late in the half. 3rd and 3, Tannehill misfires for O.J. Howard, so then the Titans are quickly going to have to punt it. Both offenses looked unbelievable to start this game, and now both defenses are playing really well. Denver has it back. Here's Sutton. He brings it to the 46-yard line. The Broncos would then proceed to waste 17 seconds off the clock and then finally call a timeout because apparently Nathaniel Hackett does not know how to use the clock. So the Broncos are actually going to bring the field goal team out. A 63-yard attempt for Brandon McManus. He's got one of the strongest legs in the NFL. However, his kick is short. No good. And so that'll wrap up half number 1 here in Nashville. We've got ourselves a very competitive game. Denver leads at 21-14. Both offenses looked unbelievably good the first 15 minutes of the game, but then both teams were trading the ball away to each other with turnovers. Let's take a look at our Week 10 halftime report. Check out on some of the other games around the NFL as we start in Kansas City. A big opportunity for the Jaguars to face off against one of the best teams in the league. And so far, Jacksonville's holding their own. Trevor Lawrence did throw 2 first-half interceptions, but he also threw this beautiful touchdown at the back of the end zone for Laviska Shenault. However, the Chiefs do lead by 1. Patrick Mahomes dry-humping Josh Allen's leg on this Travis Kelce score. 14-13 your score. The Chiefs lead. We'll see if Jacksonville can come back and get their 7th win of the season and prove that they are legitimately good. Next up, we go down south to Tampa Bay. The Seahawks quarterback battle was so mid that they acquired Sam Darnold, and to his credit, he's been pretty good today, connecting on this beautiful throw for DK Metcalf. However, Tom Brady's been a little bit too good for Seattle's defense to handle. Brady has thrown 3 touchdowns despite the heavy rain, including this one to Chris Godwin. 24-14, Bucks over the Seahawks. Brady, 3 touchdowns, 2 incompletions. He is dotting Seattle's defense up. And then the last game of the day, the Texans and the Giants. I do not have highlights for this game because there's nothing good to show. There have been 3 completed passes today for 32 yards. That should tell you all you need to know. What highlights are there of this trash can bowl? Neither of these teams deserve to win at all. They're both going to be picking in the top 5. They both suck, and they've both been playing horrible today. Okay, let's talk about this game here. What do we need to do in the second half to come back and win? I think we should probably try to run the ball a little bit better. Derrick Henry's gotten off to another quiet start today. And then defensively, Russell Wilson, minus the interception, has been really, really good. So we've got to focus on limiting the pass game. First play from scrimmage here in the third quarter starts with the Titans on offense as Treylon Burks got away from Patrick Surtain. Burks down the field. He gains 31 yards. Treylon Burks has had a field day in individual matchups with Patrick Surtain, and Burks is really, really looking good. Now from the 32-yard line, play-action fake. Tannehill rolls out to the right. He has an open man downfield. It's Robert Woods who brings it to the 8. Ryan Tannehill's having a great game today, minus the 2 fumbles. At least as a passer, he's been very impressive. One of his best games of the year. 3rd and goal. Tannehill sacked on the play action by Randy Gregory, who's had a field day today. 2.5 sacks. He has easily won the individual matchup against right tackle Dylan Ray-Dunes, who has continued to struggle this year. Fat Randy Bullock on for the kick from 39 yards out. He splits the uprights, and the Titans cut the lead within 4 as it's now 21-17. Denver has it back after a pretty solid drive from the Titans. 3rd and 6 at the 43-yard line. Wilson connects up the middle with the tight end, Albert Okwuegbunam, who brings it to the 40-yard line. Tennessee's defense is, after a really good stretch, now kind of struggling, as on 3rd down it's broken up by Christian Fulton. So the Titans do get a stop after all of that, and the Broncos will bring out the field goal team. 51-yard attempt for the Temple alum, Brandon McManus. This kick doesn't look great, but it does go in. That was a line drive. I love how it just ricocheted off the net. So it's 24-17. Both teams start the second half with field goals. As on 2nd and 9, a really risky throw hauled in by guess who? Treylon Burks, who I believe has over 100 yards again for a second straight week. 3rd and 5, Tannehill has to throw it away. Nobody was open, and he was under too much pressure. The Broncos' pass rush continues to look dominant today. That would force a punt, and Denver has it back. 3rd and 7 here for the Broncos. Wilson's going to drop back to throw it, scrambling himself, and he has to throw it away. So the Titans' defense gets a stop. They get it back on offense. This game has been pretty much back and forth the entire time. As on 1st down, here's Okonkwo down the field with a big gain to the 38-yard line. It's been fun seeing Okonkwo get a bigger role and really producing on this offense as a 4th-round rookie. 24-17 your score here through 3. Let's go to the 4th quarter and see if the Titans can pull off the comeback or if the Broncos are going to hold on to win. 2nd and 9. Tannehill connects short with Bo Melton down the sidelines. He gets 16. Nice play by Melton to bring it to the 11. Now on the goal line, 3rd and inches. Tennessee in goal line formation as it's a pitch to the outside for Hassan Haskins, and he does not get it. He might have actually lost a yard. So now it's 4th and 1 at the 2. Who would kick a field goal here? The Titans are going to go for it. Handoff for Derrick Henry, and he powers his way in for a touchdown, and this game is tied up. A gutsy call by head coach Zebediah Phoenix proves to pay off, and this game is now knotted up at 24. The Broncos have it back, 7.5 minutes to go from the 36-yard line. Wilson under pressure here on 1st down, and it's intercepted. Jared Davis picks off the pass. Great pressure from Simmons and Landry. So the Titans force a huge turnover, and they have it back on offense. Tannehill under pressure. He is rocked in the pocket for a sack. Malik Reed in the backfield to make the play. Now a 3rd and 17. That play may have knocked the Titans out of field goal range. Tannehill's going to go short here, caught by Robert Woods. And Tennessee's got an interesting decision. 4th and 11 at the 41. Do you go for it? Do you go for the 58-yard kick? Well, ultimately, the Titans decided to play it safe and punt it. So Denver has it back. Still a tie game. 24-24 as Jerry Jeudy makes a nice play up the middle. Hit hard by McCreary, but he still gets the 1st down. 3rd and 10 now at the 43. Wilson looking to throw it. Rolls out to the right. He's going to take a shot deep for the end zone, and it's broken up. Sutton had a hand on it. Good job by Farley to break it away. The Titans have it back. 3 minutes to go. Tie game. Can Tennessee drive down the field for the win? Here's Derrick Henry with a nice run up the middle for 10. That'll move the chains, and that'll bring us to the 2-minute warning. 24-24. We've got ourselves a thriller as the Titans have it at midfield. 3rd and 2 for Tennessee. Play action fake. Tannehill looks to throw it. Under pressure. Takes a shot downfield, and it's picked off. Intercepted by Justin Simmons, who brings it to the 32. Ryan Tannehill shaken up on the play. Looks like he's grabbing at his right shoulder. That is not good news for the Titans. Tannehill was under a lot of pressure there. That play wasn't entirely his fault. Not a good read, but his offensive line's got to give him more time. The Titans' offensive line today has been just dreadful. So the Broncos have it back. Courtland Sutton brings it to the 46-yard line. 2nd and 2. From the other 46, Wilson's going to scramble with room. He puts Denver in field goal range. And now at this point, the Broncos can chew clock, try to position themselves for a kick, and win the game. 2nd and 8 from the 30 with 31 seconds to go. Handoff for Javonte Williams. He gets about 2 or 3. And the Broncos call time. That's odd. The Titans were ready to call a timeout there, but I guess Denver's going to do it for them. 3rd and 5. Tennessee needs to get a stop here or else their chances of winning are pretty much dead. Handoff to Javonte Williams, and he barely gets it, breaking the tackle for Jarrett Davis. So now the Titans are starting to call their timeouts as Denver looks to finish this game off with a field goal. 3rd and 7. The Titans are out of timeouts. The Broncos have 1. They're still running another play here as the fullback is in motion. Handoff up the middle for Javonte Williams. He's going to get another first down. The Broncos got to make sure they call a timeout in time or else this will go to overtime. And they call time with 2 seconds to go. So now Denver has an opportunity to kick the game-winning field goal. The Titans can't ice the kicker. They won't have time again with the ball in regulation. 27-yard attempt for Brandon McManus. It's up. It is good. McManus splits the uprights, and the Broncos walk it off 27-24 as they defeat the Tennessee Titans. Tennessee loses their 2nd game in a row, and they fall to 5-4 on the season in heartbreaking fashion. This is a game we had opportunities to win, but we didn't always capitalize off of big-time defensive plays. The offense started this game off really well, but we weren't consistent late. Ryan Tannehill had a good day throwing the football, but he also turned it over 3 times with 2 first-half fumbles and the interception that lost us the game. Luckily, his minor injury on the interception won't be serious. He'll be good to go for next week. Russell Wilson started the game off really well, but he was honestly pretty bad after the first quarter. I thought our defense after the first quarter did a good job. Traylon Burks, 6 for 108 in the score. He was probably the best offensive player on either side of the field today. And then defensively, both pass rushes were really good. Randy Gregory was just an animal today with 3 sacks. Bunch of turnovers in this game. As for Caleb Farley, he only had 1 tackle for loss. Unfortunately, he did not complete the breakout challenge, which sucks because I thought he had a good game. He really did a good job on Courtland Sutton for most of the afternoon, but he will not be rewarded with an increase in development trait. Here's a look at some of the games in Week 10. The Jaguars ended up losing to the Chiefs. However, the Colts ended up winning their game. Indianapolis has won 5 in a row. Players of the week go to Tom Brady, Tua Tagovailoa, Cameron Jordan, and J.C. Jackson. So we've got a really tough stretch of games coming up. Outside of Houston, all of those teams on our schedule are legitimately good, and that's not ideal because we're in 3rd place in the division. The Colts are red hot. They've won 5 straight. The Jags are very good as well. We're only half a game behind both of those teams, but we haven't been playing good football since the bye week, losing 3 of our last 4, and we have a really tough stretch here in this part of the season. Next episode, we have got a doubleheader against the Packers on Thursday Night Football, and then the Cincinnati Bengals, 2 of the best teams in the league, so it's going to be a challenge, but we cannot afford to fall any further in the standings. That's going to wrap up the video. Let me know what you thought of the game and the prospect profile down below in the comments. Peace out. Tighten up.